You may be repeating every single day the same mental mistake that keeps millions of people trapped in poverty. And the scariest part is that you don't even realize you're doing it. Andrew Carnegie, one of the richest men in history, used to say that poverty begins in the mind long before it shows up in your bank account. Today, I want to show you the exact mistake he warned about and how it may be sabotaging your financial life. It's not lack of luck. It's not the government. It's not your city. It's not your family. There is something more silent, something that happens inside your head every day and shapes your financial reality. Carnegie believed that external results are only reflections of repeated internal thoughts. This mental mistake is called a scarcity mindset. It's when your mind has been trained to believe that money is hard, that wealth is for a few, that opportunities are rare, and that success is a matter of luck. This mental pattern makes you play small, even when opportunities appear. A person with a scarcity mindset sees an opportunity and thinks, "This is not for me. This will go wrong. I'm not capable. Better not take the risk." The result? They protect themselves and lose exactly what could change their life. Carnegie used to say that the mind that fears losing never learns how to win. This mental mistake creates a cycle. You think small, act small, get small results, and use that as proof that you'll never make it. And the cycle continues. You don't fail because of lack of ability. You fail because your mind has already decided the outcome before you even act. Carnegie started poor, but he decided he would not think like a poor man. He studied rich people. He thought like them, spoke like them, acted like them. And he said that before becoming financially wealthy, he became mentally wealthy. He taught that the outer world bends to inner conviction. If you believe you can, you're right. If you believe you can, you're also right. So the question is not why you're not rich yet. The question is, what does your mind still believe about money? Carnegie recommended a simple but powerful exercise. Replace scarcity thoughts with creation thoughts. Instead of saying I can't, say how can I make it happen? Instead of this is hard, say I can learn. Instead of this isn't for me, say I am becoming capable. You are not poor because of lack of money. You are poor as long as your mind is trained to lose. If this opened your mind, like subscribe and comment, I choose to think big. Do you want me to continue the script with a mental exercise Carnegie used every day to reprogram the mind for wealth? Because Carnegie didn't talk only about positive thinking. He talked about training the mind the same way you train a muscle. He believed most people live in mental autopilot mode, repeating thoughts they inherited from family, environment, and past failures without ever questioning them. And that's where the exercise he used comes in. Every day, Carnegie set aside time to do what he called intentional mental conditioning. He didn't wait to feel confident. He built confidence through repetition. The exercise was simple, but powerful. He chose a clear goal and mentally repeated it with emotion, as if it were already real. It wasn't just, I want to be rich. It was something specific, concrete, visual. He saw himself already living that reality. He felt what it would be like. He thought the way the person who had already achieved it would think. This does something deep in the brain. Your mind begins to accept that version of you as possible and starts looking for ways to get there. Most people do the opposite. They repeat every day phrases like, I can't do this. That's just who I am. Money isn't for me. And without realizing it, they are programming their own limitation. Carnegie taught that the mind does not clearly distinguish between intense imagination and real experience. So when you repeatedly picture failure, fear, and scarcity, you strengthen that pattern. But when you repeat images of success, ability, and abundance, you build a new pattern. He also did something very few people do. He was careful about what entered his mind. He avoided conversations that only talked about crisis, fear, and defeat, because he knew thoughts are contagious. You may be trying to grow, but surrounded by people who constantly say nothing ever works. And that slowly shapes your perception of reality. Carnegie said the human mind is like a garden. If you don't plant on purpose, weeds grow on their own. So the mental mistake keeping you poor is not only thinking small. It's leaving your mind without direction, being fed daily by fear, comparison, and scarcity. Now look at the contrast. A person with a mind trained to prosper thinks, if someone else did it, it's possible. If I don't know, I can learn. If I fail, I adjust. I'm responsible for my growth. Do you see the difference? The first person lives reacting to life. The second creates their life. Carnegie didn't become rich just because of opportunities. He became rich because he was mentally prepared to act when they appeared. Many people miss their chance not because it didn't show up, but because, when it did, they didn't feel capable of taking it. So here's the direct question. Are you training your mind to recognize opportunities, or to be afraid of them? If your mind keeps repeating the same scarcity thoughts, nothing changes. But if you start today to consciously replace that pattern, your reality begins to move. Because wealth begins as an accepted idea before it becomes a number in your bank account. If you want, in the next video, I can show you how to turn this mental exercise into a simple 5-minute daily routine to reprogram your mind for growth, action, and prosperity. Comment below, my mind changes, my life changes. And let me tell you something that almost no one has the courage to say. You don't need to change your bank account first in order to change your mind. You need to change your mind so that your bank account has a chance to change. Most people wait for the result before they believe. Carnegie taught the opposite. You believe first, and the result comes later. This is uncomfortable because it demands responsibility. It means stopping blaming the circumstances, the past, other people, the economy, and starting to observe your own mental pattern. Ask yourself honestly, what is the thought that repeats most in your head when the subject is money? Do I always fall behind? I wasn't born for this. For me, it's harder. If this is your inner dialogue, your mind is already programmed to prove that it's true. Carnegie said the subconscious mind is obedient. It doesn't judge whether a thought is good or bad. It simply works to turn it into reality. So if you keep saying you can't, your mind will look for reasons why you can't. If you start saying you are learning, growing, becoming capable, your mind begins to look for paths to make that true. That's why he insisted on daily repetition. Not as magic, but as reprogramming. Think about how you learned to fear money. No one gave you a formal class, but you heard phrases your whole life. Money is hard. Rich people are greedy. We're not that kind of people. Little by little, this entered your mind until it became an internal truth. Now the process is the same, but conscious. You choose what comes in. You choose what you repeat. You choose which identity you are building. Carnegie talked a lot about identity. He said people don't act according to their dreams. They act according to who they believe they are. If you still see yourself as someone limited, you will sabotage any chance to grow. But when you start seeing yourself as someone in construction, in evolution, in expansion, your actions change. And when your actions change, your results have no choice but to change as well. So maybe the biggest mental mistake keeping you poor isn't lack of money. It's insisting on staying the same version of yourself that never produced the results you want. Carnegie decided to become a new version of himself before the world recognized it. He changed inside, and the outside had to follow. Now pay attention to this. Change doesn't happen all at once. It happens in the daily repetition of thoughts, decisions, and attitudes aligned with the version of yourself you want to be. 5 minutes a day of mental focus may seem small, but years of automatic thinking brought you to where you are now. 5 conscious minutes a day can take you somewhere else. The final question is simple but deep. Will you keep feeding the mind that brought you to this point? Or will you start building the mind that can take you further? If this message made sense to you, comment below. I take control of my mind. And if you want, in the next video, I'll show you exactly how to build this daily mental reprogramming routine, step by step, turning thought into action and action into results. Because there is a point that separates those who only get motivated from those who truly transform their lives. Motivation is emotion. Mental programming is structure. Carnegie understood that you can watch a video, feel inspired for a few minutes, and then go right back to the same thoughts as before. And if your thoughts stay the same, your results stay the same too. That's why he defended a mental routine, not an emotional impulse. He suggested choosing a goal that truly moved you, something that created both fear and excitement at the same time. Because small goals don't require interchange. Then, every day, he did 3 things. First, clarity. He defined exactly what he wanted. It wasn't just more money, It was a number, a lifestyle, a specific type of result. Second, identity. He asked himself, who do I need to become to achieve this? More disciplined, more confident, more communicative, more courageous? He focused on becoming that person. Third, mental repetition with emotion. He visualized, felt, and repeated affirmations connected to that new identity. This creates something powerful, internal coherence. When your mind starts accepting a new identity, your decisions begin to follow that pattern. You stop acting like someone who survives and start acting like someone who builds. And here's a crucial point. You don't become rich just by accumulating money. You first become rich by accumulating mental patterns of creation. Carnegie observed that people with a scarcity mindset live trying not to lose, while people with an abundance mindset focus on how to create more. It's a subtle difference, but it changes everything. Those who live afraid of losing avoid risk, avoid exposure, avoid trying. Those focused on creating accept discomfort, learn from mistakes, and move forward even without guarantees. And here's something that's hard to hear, but freeing. Maybe you're not where you want to be because you're still trying to feel too safe. Carnegie said growth and comfort rarely walk together. You want to grow, but you avoid situations that challenge your self-image. You avoid speaking in public. You avoid putting yourself out there. You avoid investing in yourself. You avoid trying something new. And every "I'll do it later" reinforces the identity of someone who doesn't move forward. That's why he insisted so much on inner decision. The decision to stop seeing yourself as limited. The decision to accept that your mind can be trained. The decision to stop repeating thoughts that shrink you. Because as long as you keep saying mentally, "This is too hard for me. I'm not cut out for this. This is for other people," your mind will work tirelessly to prove you're right. Now imagine the opposite. You start repeating, "I'm learning to handle money. I'm developing discipline. I'm becoming someone who creates value." Your mind begins to look for behaviors that match this identity. You start studying more, positioning yourself more, saying yes to opportunities you once rejected. From the outside, it looks like luck, but on the inside, it was programming. Carnegie never treated wealth as an accident. He saw it as the consequence of a mind aligned with purpose, action, and persistence. And persistence is not continuing only when it's easy. It's continuing even when there is no applause, when the result hasn't appeared yet. Because a weak mind quits when the world doesn't respond quickly. A trained mind keeps going because it believes in the process. Maybe the biggest mental mistake keeping you poor is quitting internally before giving the process time. You try something for a short while, don't see immediate results, and conclude, "This isn't for me." But Carnegie said most people stop inches before the breakthrough. And only those who develop enough inner conviction to push through discomfort keep going. So if you truly want to leave the same place, it's not enough to hear this. You need to decide to apply it. Because information without application turns into entertainment. You can watch dozens of videos about mindset. But if you wake up every day with the same automatic thoughts, nothing changes. The turning point isn't when you learn something new. It's when you start consciously repeating the new pattern until it becomes natural. And that requires something many people avoid: consistency. It's not one inspired day. It's every day, even without motivation. Carnegie built wealth with the same principle that builds any skill: intentional repetition. So the final question for you is, do you want to keep living from inherited thoughts? Or will you start building chosen thoughts? Because in the end, your life doesn't follow what you wish for once in a while. It follows what your mind repeats every single day. If you understand this, write in the comments, "I choose to train my mind." And if you want, in the next video, I'll show you how to turn all of this into a practical, simple daily routine, just a few minutes a day to reprogram your mind for action, growth, and prosperity. And before you think this is just nice theory, let me bring you back to reality. Look at your life today. Your financial, professional, and personal results. What are they a reflection of? They are not a reflection of what you wish for. They are a reflection of what you mentally repeat. If you repeat insecurity, you make insecure decisions. If you repeat fear, you choose paths that are too safe. If you repeat scarcity, you avoid anything that seems too big for you. Carnegie observed that the biggest limit wasn't lack of opportunity, but lack of internal permission. Many people don't grow because deep down, they don't feel authorized to grow. They want to change, but inside there's a voice saying, "This doesn't fit me. This is too much for me. I'm not that kind of person." And this invisible identity controls your choices. You may want to earn more, but if you still see yourself as someone who always struggles, you'll keep creating situations that reinforce that. You may want to prosper, but if you still see yourself as someone who isn't good at business, you will sabotage any opportunity that requires leadership. Carnegie said wealth is the consequence of a mind that accepts its own greatness as possible. That's not arrogance. It's permission. Permission to grow. Permission to try. Permission to fail without defining yourself by failure. A mind trained in scarcity protects itself all the time. A mind trained for prosperity expands. And expansion hurts at first. It hurts to put yourself out there. It hurts to leave your comfort zone. It hurts to hear no. It hurts to fail. But Carnegie understood something most people ignore. The pain of growth is temporary. The pain of staying stuck is permanent. Maybe the mental mistake keeping you poor is trying to avoid discomfort at all costs. You avoid the discomfort of learning something new. You avoid the discomfort of positioning yourself. You avoid the discomfort of taking full responsibility. But by avoiding that, you get stuck with the discomfort of staying where you are. Carnegie didn't wait to feel ready. He acted and became ready in the process. That's the difference between those who change and those who only dream. Those who only dream wait for safety. Those who change accept the process. Now pay attention to this. Your mind will always try to keep you in the identity it already knows, even if that identity is limiting you. That's why change feels so hard. Not because you can't do it, but because your brain wants to keep you in the known. But Carnegie trained his mind to accept the new as possible. He repeated bigger visions, bigger goals, bigger thoughts, until they stopped feeling too big and started feeling natural. And when something becomes natural in your mind, you act without freezing. You stop feeling like an imposter. You stop sabotaging yourself. You stop pulling back. The mental mistake keeping you poor is believing you need to change externally first in order to feel different internally. It's the opposite. You see yourself differently first. You act differently after. And the result comes as a consequence. So maybe the turning point in your life isn't earning more money, but changing the story you tell yourself every day. Because as long as your internal story is about limitation, your external life will follow that script. But when you start telling a new story, a growth, capability, responsibility, and expansion, you change the role you play in your own life. And when the role changes, your choices change. And when your choices change, your destiny changes. So here's the direct, simple, decisive question. Will you keep believing in the version of yourself that brought you here? Or will you start building the version that can take you further? Because the wealth Carnegie talked about doesn't start in the bank account. It starts in the mind that decides it's possible. If this touched you, right below, I embrace a new mindset. You are not stuck because of lack of ability. You are stuck many times because of a mental pattern that has been repeated for years without being questioned. Carnegie was not different from you in terms of background. What set him apart was the decision not to accept the limits his mind tried to impose. He understood that the mind is moldable, that beliefs are not absolute truths, they are old repetitions, and everything that was learned can be relearned. Maybe today you still see yourself as someone who is just trying to survive, but nothing prevents you from starting to see yourself as someone who is building, growing, becoming. This shift in perspective doesn't happen overnight, but it begins in a moment like this when you consciously choose to think differently. Because life doesn't change only when you earn more. It changes when you start seeing yourself differently. Carnegie believed that deep down, every person carries a potential they have never fully explored, not because of lack of talent, but because of excess doubt. And constant doubt paralyzes. Meanwhile, those who act even with fear move forward. So maybe the step you're missing isn't more information. Maybe it's the courage to start applying, even without guarantees. The courage to change your inner dialogue. The courage to act outside your old pattern. The courage to allow yourself to grow. You don't need to know all the steps right now. You just need to take the next one. Because every step reinforces a new identity. And identity is what sustains results in the long term. If you keep repeating to yourself that you are limited, your life will obey. If you start repeating that you are in a process of expansion, your life begins to align with that. It's not magic. It's mental direction. And mental direction defines decisions. Decisions define actions. Actions define results. So from today on, the choice is clear. Keep living on mental autopilot that brought you here. Or take control of the thoughts that will shape your future. Carnegie warned about this a long time ago. The question is whether you will ignore it or apply it. If this message made sense to you, comment below. My mind changes, my life changes. And if you want to learn in the next video how to turn all of this into a simple daily practice to consciously reprogram your mind, subscribe to the channel. Because knowledge can inspire, but application transforms. Now the decision is yours.